So race is such an interesting topic. As we kind of explore it, I think you already understand why it might be, but the idea of race was developed back in the 13th, 14th century by European discoverers who decided to categorize people by race. There's really no factual basis to race. It's more like a social construct than it is a really good descriptor of people. There are more differences within racial groups than between racial groups, which makes one wonder, what are we talking about when we use them as designators or descriptors? And as you may have noticed in America, there's a lot of strong emotion attached to race. So while race may not be a fact, racial bias appears to be a fact. And one can look at race in terms of how it shapes and influences decisions. So if you look at African Americans, which is one way to think about race, you look across many diseases, many different areas of health indicators, you'll see race makes a difference in health outcomes. It certainly makes a difference in outcomes in child welfare. So while race may not be a really well-defined idea and way of describing people, racial bias appears to be something which is more tangible and something which, in my case, I tried to measure and then see what would it take to shift racial bias decision making. So what happens when you start talking about race is that anxiety goes up, which is pretty interesting. White people get quiet. Sometimes black people start talking more. It's just a fascinating sort of thing. There's a lot of very simplistic thinking about the notions of race. Describing human variation is really complex, but we can get into these descriptors which are awfully simplistic. It's really easy to get into a polarization, particularly around who's the perpetrator, who's the victim. And those polarizations seem to be alive and well in our social arenas, including within my child welfare agency. There's a lot of what I call searching and ducking, which is, who are the racist people? Where are they? Do you know one? I think I saw one in the bathroom, but I'm not sure. So we kind of end up looking for bad guys. And again, you see all the various emotional responses. But we have this notion of assigning racist behavior to individuals as if it has something to do with values. But I think there's a larger social emotional process certainly operating. You certainly can see that while race may not be a fact, you can see it distinctively in the social arena in terms of where people live, who people associate with, who people's friends are, who gets promoted, who doesn't. There's lots of studies about health outcomes. I think African Americans die from every major disease at higher rates, or at least every one of the 7 major diseases. So again, in the social process, it appears to impact how you're perceived and how people make decisions about you. There are lots of issues that would just indicate that while race is not a fact, society treats race as if it is a fact. And it reflects real differences between people. Again, this idea of racial differences not being factual. There are seemingly genetic pools of related people who are more related because of their genetic history. But within those large pools of genetically related people, the races are mixed. So there doesn't appear to be a sharp alignment between race and biology.